Great, thank you. So it's the 16th of August 2023. Sometimes I get the year wrong because I don't know what year we're in. I'm about to draw a card from the Law of Attraction deck and then hand over to Francesca. So I'm just clearing the deck, shuffling, and sometimes I hear numbers, and I heard 3. But this feels right, so I'm going to go with my feeling. And I always hold it in my left for my heart. And the card is my appreciation of it attracts its essence to me. Appreciation is key in manifesting. And it says on the reverse, an extremely effective use of your creative workshop is to ponder the aspects you appreciate regarding your most important subjects. Utilizing the workshop in this way accomplishes everything required for deliberate creation. In your emotion of appreciation, you are allowing that which you desire to manifest into your life experiences. It's a little bit wordy for my liking, but I think that what they're getting at is the feeling of appreciation is a vibration, and that's kind of like magnetizing the thing that you are wanting to manifest. And when she's talking about, or they're talking about a workshop, I think it's just literally a process, right? Our process of appreciation. Okay, let's just take a breath and then I'm going to hand over to Francesca. Ready? Deep breath. Thank you for being here, everybody. Francesca, please introduce yourself.
Hey, well, thank you, Alexis, for inviting me. I'm still trying to figure out why. After coming to the session last time and seeing, the level and the things that everybody was sharing, so beautiful. So I guess I'm doing this because I'm pushing myself out of my comfort zone a little bit, which, is always a way to grow. So I don't really know what I have to tell you because I don't have a website. I'm not a therapist, although I'm a Reiki master and I do biofeedback, but not to anybody publicly, just to friends and pets of friends. I like working with animals. Basically, I don't know. I'm going to tell you the story of meeting Alexis. He can tell the story, but it was quite some time ago, and he was so cute. Anyway, so just to have something to share to you, I was thinking, what could I tell you that maybe would be useful? And I'll share with you something that a teacher of mine told me about 30 years ago, talking about, what the spiritual path looking, there's this workshop and this modality, and there's so many, and they're all wonderful. Not everything's for everybody. But something he told me that stuck, which is that there are 3 teachers. 1, your body, observe your body. 2, nature. And 3, direct access. And all these years in between, that has really held true for me. I've studied this, I've studied that, and they're all, very worthwhile. But just that simplicity of those 3 things. And one of the things that I thought about, again, thinking, what can I tell you, wise and wonderful people, is about the number 4 in the context of manifestation, in the context of the 4 elements. Years ago, when I was studying tarot, esoteric tarot at the beginning, something that impressed me was thinking of the 4 suits being each of the 4 elements. And like Chinese philosophy, you have the yin and the yang, but the yin is in the yang and the yang is in the yin. Same thing with these 4 elements. Everything is within everything else. And if you start to look at things in terms of those properties, things get really much simpler. Things that look really complicated, all of a sudden start to kind of fall into place. And well, not that lately, 20 years, I guess I've been studying pre-Hispanic culture with this wonderful teacher called Elizabeth Patricia Torres. who was an anthropologist and a psychologist from Mexico, but was challenged at a conference in Egypt, saying, somebody asked her, tell us about your culture and your country. And she didn't know. So, being a curious and dynamic woman, she went to find out. And she found quite a few indigenous people living in the mountains who did not sort of follow the ways of the conquistadors. And it took her a long time to get them to trust her and start to open up. Somebody suggested, if you're really serious about learning about our culture and philosophy, come and dance with us. We did. And in the dance, all the philosophy is encoded. It's all there. There's no written tradition. It's all oral tradition and pictorial, which she, being an academic, was able to study the codexes and having the keys from the indigenous people. And it's a marvelous, marvelous. But again, what comes up for every day at dawn and every day at sunset, the tradition was to come together to do the dances. And before you do any of the dances, which are done in a circle, men, women together, everything's the same, you ask permission of the energies, starting with the east. Represents morning, youth in your life, springtime, beginnings. The eagle and the condor are the totems for that side. Air, looking from a different perspective. Then south, which is midday, heat, maturity. Serpent in the Mexica tradition, which is transformation. In the west, you have afternoon, harvest, maturity, autumn. The animal there is the jaguar, who stalks in the night. And the fourth is north, time of rest, nighttime. We also have the four phases of the moon, four sides of the pyramid. In the beginning, there's the one, and that divides into the two. What comes next? The four. So there's the unity, the polarity, and then the manifestation. So it's manifestation again. So I just wanted to share that. Also applying these things to our bodies and our own comfort with each of these water, fire, air, and earth within us. It's in astrology as well. It levels and layers and layers and layers of looking at these four forces, I guess we can call them. So I don't know. I found it interesting.
Beautiful.
Any questions or comments?
Are you familiar with Julie Felix? Do you know who Julie Felix is?
No, I don't.
So she's a Southern Native American shaman, but she's also a practicing witch and a musician. She's been around since the 70s. She did a song called the Goddess Chant, and in it, the chorus is earth my body, water my blood, air my lungs, and fire my spirit.
I know the song, yes.
Yeah, yeah. You might want to check out her particular version, because she goes into her own language as well, and it's magical and it's very mystical. But that you were saying about, like, obviously the elements being in the body, I think if you haven't heard her version of it, you should check it out, because it's absolutely, like, stunningly magical. And she's an amazing.
What's her name again?
Her name was
Julie Felix. Julie Felix.
Judy, D.
No, L. Julie.
Thanks.
Felix. I heard this song. Somebody was singing it recently, and we all joined in. What a great song! But I didn't know whose it was.
Well, it's also a mantra within witchcraft. So, like, when you're connecting into the body and you're connecting into the four elements. In the Celtic tradition, we have actually only three. Fire isn't an element; it's the spark of life that kind of brings everything else together. But the chant, the mantra remains the same. So it kind of grounds you into the body, connects you into the blood, to the water, connects you into the air and the air in your lungs, and obviously the energy that animates all of life kind of brings it all together. And you sort of say it like however many times you want, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You could do it for like 20 minutes. So like, it's kind of like the sort of Western kind of esoteric equivalent of like doing the Om Mani Padme Hum. But it's a really, not just that one part. We were just to chant that one part. It's incredible for like raising energy up within the body and kind of connecting yourself into that physical part of you.
That is. I mean, we are the manifestation of spirit at the end of the day, aren't we? So to be aware of that.
Absolutely.
It's key. Yeah.
Completely.
Also, I wrote a couple of books. I'll put one in the chat. You can download it. It's called To the Rhythm of the Moon, which was a book I wrote several years ago, sort of for young readers, that was posing a lot of the questions that I had as a youngster, that in my naivety I thought I would learn when I went to university. But so anyway, I'll share that with you as my little gift to you all. So
beautiful.
Yeah. But for someone who came on here saying, I don't know why Alexis chose me and I don't know what I've got to share, you shared something pretty powerful, didn't you?
Well, I don't know.
I'd just like to just tell you a little bit about how I met Francesca, and I've known her for maybe 40 years, almost 40 years. And when I went to school in Cyprus, me and my best friend used to go to Francesca's shop called Splash, and it was the magical highlight of our day going to her shop. And she had these beautiful soaps that made the whole shop smell divine, and the energy of the store was incredible. And she had these stickers which me and my best friend were obsessed with. So she calls us her sticker kids. So years later, after I left Cyprus, I always thought of Francesca, but never had the connection with her. And my friend, who is a psychosynthesis counselor, wanted to introduce me to a friend of hers. And who was it? We were talking for about an hour and a half, and then we realized that we knew each other from childhood, which is just incredible. And I did a talk for the Cypriot government, or the Cypriot Tourist Board, and Francesca was performing with her goddess drummers group, dressed in these beautiful white robes, in a temple of, I think it was the Temple of Apollo.
Aphrodite.
The Temple of Aphrodite, of course. How could I make that mistake? And we were being served these beautiful rose liqueurs, and it was like something from a dream. All of these beautiful women, these goddesses in these white robes, in this Temple of Aphrodite, and doing sacred drumming and walking through. And I felt like I'd been transported to another world. It was just magical. And as you were talking, Francesca, I was just so deeply humbled and grateful for your presence in my life. And I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for reconnecting with me.
I'm so glad we reconnected, because you and David were so cute.
And
it was a beautiful, beautiful day there at the temple. And and thank you. It's lovely you're doing this, bringing people together.
Amazing.
Thank you so much. Woo. Okay. So, if it's okay with you, if nobody has any other questions for Francesca, and I would love for you to come back in the future, please. I'm gonna ask Paul to do his segment next, and then Krish. Is that okay with everyone? Cool. All right. Any more questions for Francesca? Okay, great. Paul, over to you. We're talking about witch hazel, right?
Yes.
I'm excited about this.
Absolutely. And I'm also a whole new person since the last time.
You look different. Honestly, you do.
I feel different. I've gone through like a rapid transformation. I've been posting about it obviously for days. So it's been really interesting. So hello, for those who don't know me, I'm Paul. I'm a cunning man. and a practitioner of Celtic witchcraft. I own a company, I own a business known as the Cunning Grove, where I practice kind of folk and cunning healing, as well as owning a witchcraft shop as well. So I make a lot of kind of tools and different products myself. And I do a segment on Celtic tree magic and inner child healing, and I'm going to kind of take you through that today. So today we're going to talk about witch hazel, because last time I was on, I talked about hazel, and obviously Alexis asked, was there a connection between witch hazel and hazel? And no, there isn't, and yes, there is. So there is witch hazel, the leaf that comes from North America, which has, from a magical perspective, it's very good for healing and divination, protection, love, and romance. But there is British witch hazel, which actually isn't hazel at all. The tree is known as the witch elm, and it's one of the Scottish elm, or the Scots elm. It's one of the largest in the family of elm trees, and it gets its name because from the old word for witch, which was wicke, which meant to bend. Now I know there's this whole thing with Gerald Gardner, who said that the word Wicca was this ancient word for witch, blah, blah, blah. It's not. It literally is to do with the bending and of making of wicker baskets. And there's a whole concept between the whole magic of bending reality, and hence how this tree got named witch elm. So witch elm as a tree in itself used to be used for making bows because it's really flexible. It was used often in the construction of roofs and things, again, because it was used for sort of, it could be bent into making sort of domed roofs and things. But as a magical construct, as a magical tool, witch hazel or witch elm enables us to find the flexibility within us, the ability to bend, the ability to adapt, shift, and change. And for me at the moment, like this is such an important kind of oem to be working with, because I'm going through a state of transformation. And I think so many people that I know of right now are going through these bizarre, radical shifts and changes, which is really interesting. So witch elm or witch hazel as the tree enables us to bend, enables us to blend ourselves into reality, to shape ourselves anew, especially in times of transformation. It also helps with cleansing and purification. And in this kind of way, it's about enabling us to cleanse and purify those old aspects of ourselves. And you think about it, when we go through rapid transformation, there's almost like if you took the idea, and I don't usually like it, but the idea of us being like computers. In order for a hard drive to work at its efficiency, old lines of code need to be deleted. Well, often we carry around with us old aspects of our personality. They're kind of running in the background, and that feeling of doubt that we quite often have is because an aspect of us still exists that we have not yet let go of or deleted. Witch elm helps us purify that. So with that, I want to take you through a very, very brief meditation. How long have I got, Alexis?
Maybe another 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna, for those of you who are experiencing moments of growth and transformation and change, and feel like perhaps running around in the background is a feeling of self-doubt that you're not on the right path, or you're not making the right decision, it's probably because there's a part of you that needs to cleanse. You need to bend. You need to move into this new place. So I'm going to guide you through this little meditation. So I'd like you to close your eyes. Begin to breathe into the still center of your being, which is in your belly. And we're not going to really go anywhere with this one, but I want you to visualize perhaps an old aspect of yourself that you're clinging on to, that needs to be released. It needs to be let go so that you can bend and weave this new part of you. And I want you to say silently, inwardly to yourself, that you call on the power of the witch elm to help release that old aspect of yourself so that you can become more flexible, to bend, to weave, to shape yourself into this new version. And if you kind of want to go with the feeling of how elm blows in the wind with its flexibility, go with that. And as you move from side to side, feel that old aspect of yourself shaking loose, becoming free from you. And again, calling on that power of witch elm to release and to purify. Say within yourself that you call on this power to release and purify this old identity, this old aspect of yourself. And remember that even our old personalities, our old identities, they're not our enemy, they're a treasured friend. And like we would do any treasured friend, wave them goodbye as you release this old aspect of yourself so that you can bend, shift, and shape yourself into whatever you're becoming, whatever you're shaping yourself into. And then when you're ready and you feel it's appropriate, you can open your eyes.
That felt really powerful, Paul. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure, always.
It's lovely to see everyone, lovely to be here. Krish, in a moment, I'm going to come to you. I just want to say, Anna, there's something about your energy this evening which feels really different. And it's like you feel like you've kind of like stepped into like this even wiser being. And, you know, you've always been wise, but this extra kind of glow about you this evening.
Well, I just did a shamanic exorcism on myself. So.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that explains a lot, right? I can really see a shift in your energy. You have like an iridescence about your energy, which I can really see.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
It's magical.
Wow. Thank you.
And I also just want to say that, Paul, I know your screen is off and I hope that you can hear, but I just want to say that was really, really powerful for me because I shifted something during that this feeling that I've been carrying a lot with me lately of, I know that I'm a powerful being, but I also feel great sort of like weakness as well, and I don't know how to explain it, but that idea of that weakness really shifted during that meditation. So I just want to thank you for that. And the last thing that I want to say before I hand over to Krish is, Denise, I know that whatever it is, and I'm just saying this to you intuitively right now, whatever it is that you're carrying that's painful to you, let it go and trust that it's already in the process of healing. You are already healing. And I want you to vibrationally feel that and anchor that into your energy because it's the truth. And I really feel it for you.
Thank you. It's totally relevant and very welcome. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Krish, it's beautiful to have you here. So glad to connect with you. And yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm interested and intrigued.
What's intriguing you right now?
Well, you know, like I've always heard about the Akashic records, and you know, I've read about it, I've heard about it, but the fact that you can access it, you know, and you know, whenever I've gone, wow, that's amazing. You go, oh, it's easy, you can do it. It's like anyone can do it. Okay, you know, I want to know more. So please.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name's Krish. Actually, Krishna. So I'm currently, as I mentioned earlier, in British Columbia, and I turned 51 in May. One of the things I'm realizing about all this stuff like karma and Akashic records, and I've been effectively, I had an Indian father and an English mother, and they said to me at the age of 6, "We're not going to put our beliefs on you. Go off and find your own." Try telling that to a 6-year-old. Because I took them at their word. So I've been a seeker ever since. So I'm a druidry practitioner, I'm a shamanic practitioner, blah, 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 do readings, all that kind of stuff. I'm also a coach. I coach kind of senior business leaders, founders. I'm more and more mentoring coaches as well. But, ultimately speaking, that's all about so many of us are here on this earth at this time, aren't we, with a bit of a mission. And it's an interesting time to be on Earth right now. It always brings me back to that kind of that old kind of apparently Chinese curse of may you live in interesting times. So what I've kind of realised at this kind of stage at 51, having just been through Chiron returns, is I'm now currently in this process of trying to unlearn everything I learned in the first half of my life, because actually most of it's rubbish. And this stuff about the Akashic records and stuff that kind of connected us, Alexis. Like, there's good stuff here, but there are a lot of esoteric words that go with a technology that is effectively very easy and very anyone can do with the right frame of reference, as it were. So basically one of the tools I use with clients is kind of a form of karmic healing, if you like. It's kind of called soul realignment. The founder of that was a woman called Andrea Hess, who's quite a famous intuitive teacher, but very much in that realm of like, how do we integrate spirituality into the three-dimensional realm? The notion that we are here incarnate. This isn't a prison sentence to be on this planet. This is actually a privilege, and it's actually, we're not here to just learn and suffer. We're actually here to, to actually have a good time and all that kind of thing. So I was drawn to this modality several years ago. And it's based on the notion that there are some very specific meanings to these kind of big words we use, like soul and karma and that kind of thing. So Andrea's really hot on the notion of, using a strong frame of reference. So in this case, the strongest frame of reference is the word karma. And I'm just kind of curious what that word means to each of you, or to some people in the group. So I'm just going to throw that open for a second. Alexis, what does the word karma mean to you?
For me, I think karma means action and reaction. I also see karma as kind of like a bank account of all of the things that we've done, both in this life and other lives. And from my understanding of the word and its roots, I think it just means everything that we do.
Okay, cool. Paul, you just put in the chat, I don't believe in karma. Do you want to say a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, karma it's an Eastern word. I don't practice an Eastern tradition. I practice one very centered in the British Isles. We don't have a word for that same kind of idea. And also, I think it gets battered around and used inappropriately. People talk about your trauma. Well, that's your karmic debt. I honestly, as someone who's also a qualified therapist, I think it's absolutely, there's not a strong enough word, but abhorrently abusive to tell someone that perhaps their child sexual abuse, sorry for any triggers, is a result of something they did in a previous life. No, it's not. It's a result of someone with very, very selfish action in this life who's caused harm to a child. I don't believe that there's some mystical learning for that. That's very much a kind of a personal belief. And also, if people take this concept of like karma as cause and effect, so some kind of attribute it to, we do something good happens. If we do something bad happens. If we think about all the people in the world who do terrible things, big global corporations who strip the planet of its natural resources, who keep people living in poverty, if karma was a real thing, then every time they stepped outside the house, a bolt of lightning should hit them, yet they remain untouchable and do nothing but grow in wealth and abundance. And often people in poverty and starvation, again, that would be, people would attribute starving children in Africa to me, that's spiritual bypassing. What we're talking about again is how greed and systemic oppression and racism has been allowed to grow to the point that we have stripped countries of their natural resources so that their own people have nothing, and then we allow tyrants to get into leadership and we do nothing. But someone threatens the oil well in Iraq, we'll move every single armed person. Where is the karma in that? Where is the justice? So yeah, that's why it's quite. I often say things that some people think are controversial because I say things that go against the grain and against narrative, like you said about unlearning a half of what you learned, for the first half of your life. I've done the same thing, all of these things. And I used to believe so heavily in karma until that day. And I was like, where is the karma in that? I believe in justice. I believe in balance. But if karma was a real thing, then I often believe that we are then the agents by which karma, this concept of karma, enacts itself. So perhaps we are the agents by which balance and justice and equilibrium happens. Is that a mystical force? No, that's sheer will, guts, and just right and wrong. So yeah, that's my short version of my opinion.
If I just add something to that about the lords of karma, I was taught that there are beings called the lords of karma, and I recently was reading about Lady Portia, who is the twin flame of
Michael.
no, not Michael, Saint Germain,
Okay.
the keeper of the violet flame, and they have actually incarnated in different physical bodies, and there's actually physical photographs of them. But my point is that if these beings exist, karma for me explains something that I never could get my head around. And it's the only logical explanation that takes me outside of the realms of understanding into sort of archetypal mind.
Cool. Thanks, Alexis. Mel, I'll come to you in 1 second. I just want to pick up on something that Paul said. One of the examples you used was childhood sexual abuse. I was sexually abused as a child at 2.5. And I can tell you right now, having done a lot of healing at that is not about karmic debt. I fully agree with you there.
Same.
Which is why I'm asking this question around what karma is. But what I'm talking about here is a very specific frame of reference, which I'll come to in a second. But Mel, I'm kind of curious to hear what you've got to say.
I was just going to say, I believe there's a paradox here. I believe that when we are in the egoic mind, we can feel that sense of karma. And once we go into the consciousness, for lack of better words, level, you're in that consciousness level, it for me, it doesn't exist. So I think I'm also a Gemini. I see all aspects of things that I'm kind of, I believe it exists and I believe it doesn't exist. I really believe it exists. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there. I could go on forever.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, no, thank you.
Can I just say that I think that you've touched on something really profound there, that when something is true in the world of that, when you look at the yin and yang symbol, everything exists and doesn't exist, so when something is true, it's also not true. I think that there are quantum realms of reality where things do exist and not exist. So it depends on your belief structure, and that also affects reality, I think. But please carry on.
No, thank you. Just kind of picking up something Paul said, I stand as a child from both the East and the West. So, I've kind of been a practitioner of kind of revivalist druidry for 25 years. and various shamanic practices, and I also have like Hindu roots. So this I think the reason why I love this modality is that word karma, as we've seen, is a very big word, and it has a lot of meanings for a lot of people, and there's a lot of value judgment ascribed to it. It tends, that kind of traditional thing from the Hindu thing is, you're a good person in this lifetime, you ascend to a higher level of being, you're a bad person, you blah, blah, blah. In soul realignment, it has a very specific meaning. Karma has a very specific meaning, and karma is something that's alive in this frame of reference 24/7, 365. It's something we're generating here and now, right now. And it's, it relates back to that thing you opened with, Alexis, of manifestation. Because, good karma is effectively, are we moving into the flow? And negative karma is, are we moving away from the flow? So what this is saying is, one of the things we start with in soul realignment is, what is your divine soul blueprint? What are you manifesting here to do? What are your soul gifts? What is the blueprint of who you are as a soul? Because we're all different. And so karma in this sense is not whether you're a good person or a bad person. You're doing good things, bad things. Because who the hell can really describe what is good and bad? It's about how in alignment are you with your gifts, with your blueprint, with your unique frequency of flow, or how out of alignment are you? So therefore, where kind of negative blocks and restrictions come in is, there are lifetimes where in the past we've made decisions, and we've continued through lifetimes to make those decisions, and we're continuing. So if we're feeling a negative block or restriction in this lifetime that comes from the past, it's because we're still making that kind of call, as it were. And that call isn't about the notion of, I did something bad 12 lifetimes ago, therefore something bad is happening to me. It's just saying we're making we're making kind of negative decisions still, or we're allowing a negative flow to happen. Like, for example, we are being people pleasing, or we are, I don't know, there are all sorts of things that come through. But the point is, are we actually in alignment with who we're here to be, or are we out of alignment with that, as it were? So the karma aspect here has nothing to do with value judgment, being good or being bad. It has everything to do with, do I know who I am? Do I know what my gifts are? Do I know my part in the divine symphony, if you like, as it were? And therefore, can I come more into alignment with that, and therefore manifest more of my divinity in this realm? Or am I kind of moving away from it? Does that kind of make sense? As it were. So the place we always start is kind of, what is your divine soul blueprint? So it's for this, I took a quick look at Alexis's kind of soul blueprint, just as an opening point. So whenever we kind of do like a soul realignment, clearing or healing, it's not something that's done in the moment. It's done with preparation, and then there's a report. Because effectively, it's a bit like coaching, right? So, I took a quick look at Alexis, just as an example for this. And really, the way to think of this is, when we're all part, in this frame of reference, and this is kind of how I believe anyway, we're all part of divinity. We all are a spark of divinity. But when we actually kind of start to individuate out, or we become a shard or a spark of divinity, we kind of take on a resonance. And, that generally is a resonance or an essence of, it could be an essence of order, of wisdom, of power. For you, Alexis, what came out was, you are, your soul essence is divine truth. So you're an essence of truth. So what does that mean? Really, that's not about like what is truth in the universal sense. It's about, you're here to help people really find their own truth, the truth of who they are, and the truth and the resonance of who they are. So divine truth souls are highly visual. So when I heard you talking earlier about color and that kind of thing, divine truth souls are the true seers. They're a highly visual realm, very intuitive. Third eye is probably the most active for divine truth souls. Very often drawn to like visual arts, photography, that kind of thing. Basically, divine truth souls are the spiritual warriors. because they make the stand for truth, and they make the stand for truth of, Francesca, you have something to say, even when you don't believe you are. Anna, your radiance, even when you don't realize it. You know, Denise, you're in the process of healing, even when you don't realize it. That's the naming of the truth at the individual level. Divine truth souls can often get themselves into trouble as well, because they're all about the truth, and truth can be inconvenient. So sometimes you might find, Alexis, that you might, you know, this is like those choice points. This is like where karma plays out 24/7. There are going to be times when it's going to be hard to tell you the truth. But to be in alignment and to generate that positive karma and be in flow with your blueprint, truth is the way to go. So often the negative karma point for a divine truth soul is becoming the strong silent type. That type that gets silence and being in situations where, you know, your ability to name truth is not valued, as it were. What then comes as a wrap around that? So we all have this resonance. Like every one of us on here will have a different resonance. So for me, it's communication and love. Those are my two resonances. But then there's, where do we incarnate, first of all? And this is where a lot of the starseed stuff comes in. So Alexis, you kind of actually have your primary soul group, according to this, is you're a starseed from Vega. And Vegan souls are amplifiers. That's the way to put this. So Vegan souls need to be on the stage one way or another. So, and it's not about ego, it's not about it's about when Vegan souls kind of put themselves on stage, they amplify out the field. So exactly what you're doing right here, right now, by leading this, by bringing this together, Vegan souls naturally amplify the positivity, or, you know, the higher vibration, as it were. So any Vegan soul that tries to shy away and hide themselves, that's generating negative karma, as it were. Your karma, the way to generate positive karma based on your soul group, is to be on stage more and more, and because, you know, it's not like you're hogging the limelight. What you actually do by being in the limelight is you shine the limelight on others, and you shine that light. So by doing that more and more, that's a very, you know, tangible way of you generating more of your positive karma, as it were. So if you just put those two bits together, and, you know, there's more to it, but I'm just kind of, you know, paraphrasing, as it were. You're a soul that's here to help people find the resonance of truth, and in doing that, you find your own truth. But your way of doing that, your how, is to be on stage. So you see the truth, but then you amplify that. There's the throat chakra. There's the piece. So the fact that you're a singer, the fact that you're on stage, the fact that you help other people to do that and find it in themselves, that's how you generate positive karma, as it were. So that's the core piece. And then, you know, where we go with soul realignment is, right, where are the choices you've made in the past that are out of alignment with that you're continuing to make, as it were. And that is kind of how, and the way we look at that is we look back in your Akashic record. So an Akashic record, just for those of you that may not be familiar, there's a theory in, you know, it's a general New Age theory, but it really comes from Hinduism, that there is like a universal library, if you like, that goes back to the dawn of time, that, you know, we all have a library book in it. It has like a record of everything you've ever done, every decision you've ever made, and it's being written. Of course, time being circular, there's, you know, all sorts of arguments you can make in that. But essentially, what we do is we look back to see what are those negative blocks and restrictions that you've picked up that you think you're probably laboring in this lifetime under the thing of just saying, well, that's the way life is, or, you know, everyone's feeling this. It's like, no, they're not. That's something you've kind of taken on and continue to choose to manifest, as it were. And you can change that in a moment. And that's where the action piece comes in, Alexis. By, in this case, for you, you can make a different choice in any moment and start a different flow of energy and a different flow of karma, as it were. So I've probably just thrown a whole load of stuff, you know, that kind of may be meaningful or may not be meaningful. I'm just kind of curious as to, first of all, Alexis, what lands for you, but then kind of, you know, any kind of questions around that.
Well, when you said truth, I mean, that resonates on a massive level, because, you know, there was a point when I was going to take my own life, and I had a very profound experience where a book fell on my head, and the book was called "May the Angels Be With You," and it was like, okay, I get it, and I had a vision. I had a vision during those times where the ascended masters appeared to me, and angels appeared to me, and I was told very, very clearly in this vision that I needed to live in the truth of who I was. I was living a double life. I was with a woman, and in the last 7 of those 13 years, I hadn't come to grips with my sexuality as a gay man, and I hated myself, really hated myself, and I had to change my life and be true and come out of the closet and go through a year of counseling and coming to terms with all of the religious baggage that I'd been. So truth, yes. And I made a commitment that I would always live in the truth of who I was if I was going to live.
Love that.
So yes, that very much resonates with me. And the other thing that you said about being this on the stage, I have felt that so profoundly in my soul from ever since I hit puberty. I've known that it's my life mission. I've never heard that I'm from Vega. That's the first time I've heard that. I am a vegan, but I don't know if there's a connection. Yeah.
Well, the thing about vegan souls is, there are a lot of souls that kind of, are large, confident souls. And, especially in England, we're not good with people who are confident, or, we want to bring people down, as it were. So very often, vegan souls are kind of made to feel like they shouldn't be such a large personality, because it almost seems like if I'm large, there's not room for anyone else. Actually, a vegan soul should never apologize for their bigness.
It's got me into trouble. It's got me into great trouble being honest, and my family have basically ostracized me because I'm a truth sayer, and they don't like it because they're highly narcissistic and toxic. So yeah, thank you.
Cool. So yeah, that's the sort of notion that, it's a case of there's a sense of what a person's soul blueprint looks like. Everyone is different. There are a whole bunch of things, but then the pieces of it are: what is the divine soul blueprint? Where are you right now in that? What are the blocks and restrictions that you carry forwards, as it were? And again, it's not that notion of something that happened 6, 8, 12 lifetimes ago. It happened back then, and now it's coming back to hit you. The notion is you've carried that all the way through, and you still continue to make that choice, as it were. Even if that choice is someone is putting a negative intention or a negative block on you, or you've taken a sacred vow in the past. Of so many of us in this realm have been like holy people of different descriptions, whether that's a medicine person, whether that's a monk or a nun or that kind of thing. And we took vows with that, like chastity or poverty or, whatever the hell else.
I have a question for you now that you've said that.
Yeah.
So my question is soul contracts and everything that you said about the Akashic records. Is it the same thing? Like when you have a soul contract and your blueprint, your divine blueprint, whatever that may be, is it the same thing?
No, they're not, but they're linked. So your soul blueprint is, like a blueprint for a building. This is the way it would ideally be, and we ideally build it in this way. So as we live through incarnations, this is the way we ideally live. And if we do that, and we're in alignment with that blueprint, we generate more positive karma or flow, and manifestation becomes easy from that. When we talk about soul contracts or that kind of thing, and again, there are numerous different types of negative blocks and restrictions. And that might be anything from attaching souls, like, we sometimes in incarnation call those psychic vampires, or we might have other entities attached to us. If we kind of take on soul contracts with people, it might be that in previous lifetimes we've agreed to look after people, or, we have what we might call a soulmate contract. It's actually not a soulmate contract. It's codependence, if you like. Those are ways in which we've made decisions which at the time seem like the right thing to do, but they might be out of alignment with our blueprint, as it were. So they take us further and further away from that blueprint over time. So it means we actually create energetic drag, if you like.
Can you give us like a little nugget of information that we could maybe use as a kind of like, I'm asking for takeaway nuggets here. I sound like I'm in McDonald's. But do you get where I'm coming from? Like, is there is there something that we can use from the work that you do that we can do by ourselves?
Yeah, absolutely. There absolutely is. I mean, all of this, and that's the thing, this all sounds very esoteric. The main thing here is what a divine soul blueprint tells you or gives you affirmation of is what are your gifts, what are your soul gifts. And the notion that the more you lean into your soul gifts, the more positive karma you're going to create, or the more flow you're going to create. So the two things I would say is you don't need necessarily, an Akashic record reading to tell you what your gifts are. First of all, there's just kind of looking at those moments when you felt most alive, helping other people, or in those situations where you've been able to be at your best, and thinking about, what was I bringing to the party here? What gifts were I bringing? And, being really honest about that, because again, certainly in the UK, we're not particularly good at owning what we're great at. And, another way of doing that is the people that are around you that love you, that you trust. So not necessarily our family, as it were, or maybe, is asking those people who are real seeing mirrors, those people who really believe in us, what gifts do you see in me? And as you get that feedback, number one, starting to believe it, not knocking it away. But number two, seeing how you can use those gifts more and more and more in your daily life. Because as you do that, that's how you create flow, otherwise known as positive karma, as it were. So that would be the takeaway. Inventory your gifts and use them. Because that is, ultimately speaking, what makes everything easier. It creates our soul growth. It makes manifestation easier because we're magnetizing, guess what, the stuff that we're meant to, as it were. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. So in the remaining maybe 6 minutes, is there, I was going to suggest maybe just going around the group and each of us naming one gift that we believe that we have, and something that we see in one other person. So each of us to say one thing for ourselves and one thing for another person. Can we do that? Is there anything that you would like to say in closing, or does anybody have any questions?
I actually have a quick little question. Sorry.
Mm.
So you said, if I heard correctly, you said you practice Druidism as well?
Yeah.
So is that Irish or Welsh? There's a question. It relates. Irish or Welsh?
Well,
or a combination of the two?
Well, there's a good question. I'm a member of OBOD.
Oh, okay.
And an ADO. But the thing is, as you know, Paul, from what you do, any notion we have of Druidry is revivalist anyway. We don't actually really have a clue what the ancient Druids did or whatever. So it's all kind of cobbled together anyway. So, but I would say primarily Welsh.
Okay, so do you know the concept of the ocean? It's something I learned years ago, that whatever we throw into the ocean, eventually the tide will bring back. As you were talking about your version of kind of, or what you perceive as karma, and that kind of concept of flow, I work a lot with flow. That was what kind of came to me. The idea is like with magic, whatever. So people have this concept, don't they, that whatever you throw at someone will come back. I don't believe in that either, because I don't believe in karma. But for me, whatever we throw into the ocean will eventually, it will kind of go out with the tide and come back, and eventually we'll see whatever it is we've thrown in the world, and gosh, we best like what we've seen, or else we kind of have to make some kind of changes. And as you were talking again, as you were talking about what you perceive as karma, that was very clearly kind of coming to mind that Welsh concept of magic about the ocean and the flow and it coming back. Do you kind of perceive it the same way, or do you kind of see that as separate ideas?
No. I think broadly speaking, I would very much agree with that. And one of the concepts in I mean, again, we can't really talk about shamanism because it's there are so many different forms. But one of the core concepts, obviously, is that notion of being full of power.
Yes.
As in nothing bad can happen to us if we occupy our full energy field. It's the same kind of thing. On the notion in this is at soul level, it's not about what someone chucks at us because we're infinite beings. So therefore, at soul level, we can only take on negativity if we choose to take it on, kind of thing. So therefore, if whether it's like stuff we chuck in the ocean that is something bad we're doing, or we're choosing to take on like responsibility for someone that maybe is not in our best interest, it's still gunk we're chucking in the ocean. I love that actually. It really is about that flow, and it will come back to us in that sense of it'll take us out of alignment. So I really agree with it, that kind of notion of ebb and tide in the flow, as it were.
Okay.
The questions for Krish?
Thank you.
I have a little comment, not a question, because you started out saying you're 51 or going to be 51. Shika tradition, 52 is key because you're coming back to where you started in the calendar system. So 52 is then starting a whole new life, a new cycle. So it's good to be prepared for that. And it sounds like you're doing it, unlearning everything, because that's what you need to do to be prepared to start again. So happy birthday.
Thank you, Francesca. It's funny, in the Hawaiian tradition, 51 is when you become a true adult, as in you have a voice, because it also coincides with Chiron returns, and it's quite a tradition, or it's quite a thing throughout a lot of indigenous traditions, that 51, 52 is actually when you're starting the next stage of life.
Yeah.
And
the Shika thing, it's like everything comes back to alignment from when you're born. So it's like the return, same thing. When you see these things in so many different cultures, you think, something to it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
I'm 51 as well. So that's really interesting. Thank you.
We'll talk more about that, Alexis.
Yeah. I feel as if there's a story that we need to write, you and I. I don't know what it is, but I feel that very much. Okay, let's do this thing where we say one thing about ourselves, and then I'll hand over to Mel for her segment. Krish, thank you. So, for myself, one of my gifts is communication, and I'm going to say one thing that I see in someone else, and I'm going to say about Paul that I feel and believe that you have great uncharted magic within you. Yeah. Okay, I'll come to you, Paul, now.
Thank you for that. Gift, many. Healing. Healing. And gifts that I see in someone else. I'm really terrible with names, but the lady who spoke first, who did the first segment.
Francesca,
that's it. So much wisdom and so much more to share, I think, than you possibly realize. You're definitely meant to be here. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise.
For me, I think depth, my ability of my to understand people at the deepest level. particularly children. I work a lot with children and families, so I just naturally understand children and what they are and what they're going through. So I think that's one of my biggest gifts, I think.
Are you a counsellor?
I'm lots of different things, but I started off as a social worker, but I do holistic therapy, but lots of different therapies in that. So I do a lot of trauma release work, inner child healing. I'm a parent coach. I work directly with children. I'm a trainer for adoptive families. So yeah, I do. It's sort of under the holistic banner.
We need to get you on as a guest.
Yeah, that would be nice.
We'll talk about that in future. Please message me and what do you see for someone else?
I'd like to do that for you. That's okay.
Thank you.
In you, the thing that radiates from you, mostly that I see, is unconditional love.
Thank you so much.
Well, I can feel it, and your perception. You've obviously got a very clear perception, the way you perceive and link into people. But what I feel most is your heart, your unconditional love.
Bless you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And it's also within you. What we see in others is a reflection of ourselves. Thank you for seeing that in me.
You're welcome.
Francesca, one of your gifts.
A lot of creativity and ideas. I can always come up with some ideas. There's so many of them. You can usually pick out a couple of good ones from all the crazy ones. I think I've always had that. And also connecting people, kind of keeping myself. I sometimes feel like I'm the spider in the web. This one's got to meet that one. I keep in the background, but I like to connect people, which I see also in you, Alexis.
Thank you. Yeah, I do that a lot. Is there anything else that you'd like to share for someone? Or are you done?
Done.
Done. Cool. Thank you, Francesca. Anna?
Okay. I feel the whole Vega thing, I feel very connected to you.
Yeah, I thought the same thing when Krish did that. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. So in terms of gifts, for me, it's also communication, but sort of combined with this ability to almost go inside of a person. So like when I'm working with someone, I or even not just talking to someone, I could almost see inside the person.
It's like psychic surgery.
Yeah, but also just like to I can really understand what makes someone tick, and communicate to a very wide variety of people. Like I can communicate with people from any culture.
Anna is a shamanic exorcist, for those of you that don't know, and feng shui consultant.
What I see for someone else. I feel like I want to say for Carl, one of your gifts is your ability to be present, fully present with someone, and to share your light with them from a place without ego.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Anna. Syra is just joining us. She'll pop onto the screen in a moment. I'll say hello to her. Hello, Syra. Krish, Oh, we've got some weird sound. I'm going to mute Spyro. I think it's her sound. Oh, it's gone. Good. Okay. So, Krish, what's yours?
So I think one of my biggest soul gifts is championing. So I'm pretty good at seeing where people are down on themselves and really pulling that out, and like really helping them to believe in themselves and what their unique divinity is. That's probably one of my biggest gifts. In terms of for others, one is for Mel. What really strikes me is the word insight. I kind of almost have this sense of almost like an engineer's approach to kind of like how things work and how things fit together and all this kind of thing. Being able to give like really strong insight into things and the workings of things. And then the other one is for Carl, which is not dissimilar to what Anna said. The word that came to me was two words: non-judgment, but then discernment. So the ability to not be in judgment, and therefore to really be able to discern really finely, because you don't necessarily insert your agenda into something. You're able to almost allow it to flow to you, and then kind of discern from there. It's almost like, what's the goal you're panning for?
That was actually what I was going to say my gift was, discernment.
Please do. We're getting that feedback again. Discernment, your gift, and what do you see for someone else?
Sorry, me?
Yes.
I guess, I feel for Francesca, again, just her gift is sincerity and truth also. It's just there's a sincerity that underlies everything she says, that carries her message and makes it undeniable.
Beautiful. Thank you. Mel?
Okay. I would say, first of all, thank you, Krish. I think I'm going to start with what I see in Krish and then go, if I can go vice versa. And I don't even have the words in my mind. I operate more on feelings, but it's like this calmness that allows people to really hear what their true self is saying, kind of like hold that space for people to go beyond their ego and like sink in deeper to their true nature. There we go. I knew if I stopped thinking about it, it would flow out of me. And then for me, I think my gift, which I've also, what Krish was talking to of the negative and positive karma, it's like, I don't know, wonder why everything feels so good, because I finally have stepped into that role of what I feel is my purpose. And a lot of what I do in my work is to hold space and channel the questions and the right movements or words to guide people back to themselves and their soul purpose and their authentic truth.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to let that lead into your segment now. And just before I'm going to do that, I just want to welcome Syra, who's joined us, and also say thank you to Krish for sharing what you shared with us. And, of course, thank you, Francesca, and thank you, Paul.
Hello, thank you. I've had a bit of technical problems. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Thanks for being here, Syra. Because we're running a little overtime, I'm just going to say we're going to go 10 minutes past 1:30, and then that we're going to cut off. If you need to go, that's completely understood. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes, Mel, and then Anna 10 minutes, and then we'll close the session tonight. So Mel, over to you.
Okay, I really wanted it to be organic, and I think I like maybe even opening it up to questions, so I don't even have to maybe go over. But I don't know, I guess the titles that I have, I also, like Francesca, work with biofeedback. I really truly hold a belief that science and spirituality may quite possibly be the same thing. And so it is a perception reframing technology that uses biofeedback through voice mapping. So a lot of the tones that we use in what we're talking about, right? Like how I talk about my mother or my father or my husband have different tones. So that is one of the modalities that I use, and it is through the subconscious mind. So I specialize in working with those who want to heal or navigate traumatic, toxic, narcissistic relationships with a loved one, whether that be family or romantic partner, and guide them back to themselves. So a lot of people give up different aspects of themselves in order to maintain those relationships, and then lose parts of themselves, and also develop aspects of themselves that maybe aren't to their truest nature. So through perception reframing, whether through the technology, I also pair in divinity with that, and having the divine come in and manifest what it is that you truly do want for your life through those traumatic and toxic relationships, experiences. And I work through a 12-week intimate intensive program that we have weekly spiritual alignment sessions. So that's where I hold that space to guide people back to their true nature after working through different spiritual practices and working in a spiritual community that is people on the same journey of untangling themselves and unwinding themselves from, well, those aspects that they've had to either develop to maintain, or that they've had to give up to maintain. So I guess I'll leave it to, if you have questions, because there is so much that I do, I guess, I don't know if I should go into one of them, or if I should have, if anyone has questions, a particular question about how I do this.
I have a question. I just particularly intrigued by the use of sound, and I think that's kind of genius. So I'd like if you'd maybe talk a little bit more about that, because I would imagine that, yeah, we pitch our voice differently when we're happy or when we're sad or whatever. And so is it kind of like a reframing approach, like hypnotherapists and NLP people would use, but you're actually using sound and the tone of the voice to reframe then the perception of the topic?
Yeah, I can definitely go into that. So I work with a company called Zyto, and they have called ebooks. So you record your voice, and it actually has transgenerational. So you can reduce the inertia that's brought down from family lines. And that is where I found a lot of healing from my family. And so you talk about it, it uses the 12 tones of music. So that's why also music is so healing. And each tone, each of the 12 holds and embodies different emotions that are held within, whether it's sadness and grief, or there's like negative sense of self. And when you are recording those, then you get the feedback through well, actually I have it right here. You get feedback through a hand cradle, and then you also, at the end of your session, get frequencies put into water that help to balance and restore. So when you do the voice mapping, it's like, okay, here's the imbalance that you have. And through the biofeedback and the different frequencies of Australian and Bach flowers, helps to restore those and strengthen the new neural pathways that were now opened up. So, and there are a lot of different ones that I had done. It's so funny. It's like it's science, but I had done so much on spirituality beliefs because I think maybe to know a little bit about my background is that I had very toxic relationships with both parents. I did decide to maintain it with my mom, and she was very much aware of it, and we both worked on it, and it was hard work, and she just passed away. And so that's been really hard spiritually, mentally, emotionally, feeling all those. And yeah, so that is like, I call that like what I do in my spiritual practice with my cohort, or it's called sovereign spirit, to become a sovereign spirit through all the chaos. I found that to be lightning speed. Like, it's like, okay, you're shifting this perception, and so a lot of times you're not even really aware that you are. That's how quick it is. Yeah, that's a great question.
Where can people find out about your work? Do you have a website?
That's a really good question. Yes. I don't really, it's so funny. I don't really use my website. I think the best way is, what I do is I do free clarity calls. So like if you're I'll give you two links. If you're wanting to like connect with me and be like, hey, is this a good fit? Let me give you that link. And then as far as what I do, I can give you a video of like a breakdown of like, here's what I do and why I do it.
Could you please share that on the Sacred Segments page?
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
And if for any reason you have any trouble doing that, then just send it to me, and then I will post it on the Sacred Segment page. Or I could make you an admin if it doesn't work. We'll figure it out.
Will do. Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Mel? Okay. What do you call your work? How do you define it?
That's a really good question. I struggle with labels. Okay, if I like a title I've given myself is spiritual alignment, intuitive spiritual alignment practitioner. Yeah, I think if I had another name, the name of my program is Sovereign Spirit. So with that is all the guiding, working with integrating the four bodies in the healing, the physical, mental, spiritual, and mental. I don't know which four I said, but anyways, the four is integrating them into the healing. Great.
Just before I hand over to Anna, I'd just like to say there was something that you said, Mel, about the voice, which Carl picked up on. And I work as a singing teacher, among other things. And I've always noticed when working with the voice with an individual that it's very, very reflective of their whole being, and also where they're at in their lives. You know, I can really, really tell a lot about a person from their voice, you know, singing and speaking. Thank you for sharing that. I just one little question. This biofeedback device that you were talking about, is that the name of it? A biofeedback device, this blue machine thing that you had?
The name of it is called Evox here.
Okay. And what does it do?
So I can post so I work with Zyto. They're the company that does this. And actually, I don't know, something Carl said reminded me of it. The woman who developed it actually has like the hearing of a dolphin. And so she wanted what she could do to be something software could do. So there's a short 3-minute video I can link on there as well. And it does it way better than I can describe, because it has the visuals of what we're actually doing in each step of it. So I can put that link in there too.
Thank you so much. And Mel's going to come back in the future in a few months and be a main guest, and we can hear more about her work. Thank you, Mel.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Well, thank you for being here, everyone. Anna, over to you.
So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Anna Pavlakis. And as Alexis mentioned, I'm a shamanic healer, also shamanic exorcist, but primarily shamanic healer and feng shui practitioner. And I work with my own modality, I call it my soul's expression of shamanism, which is called integrated soul healing, and which was given to me, channeled into me in 2011. I'm actually teaching a workshop on it for the first time on the 27th. You're welcome to attend, and it's very exciting, but I'm also very nervous about it, just being honest. It's like I'm really putting myself out there, and it's scary. So thank you for listening to that little plea for support. So what I've been talking about over the last few weeks is about the 7 rays, the 7 rays of God. And we've already talked about the first, the second, and the third. The first being the ray of will and power, the second of love and wisdom, and the third of active intelligence, right? So for those of you who didn't see this, if you wanted to watch one of the other sacred segments, the segment that I do, I talk about those 3. And it's a huge subject, so I can only kind of touch the surface of it. But today I'm going to talk about the 4th ray. And it's interesting, I was thinking also earlier about how the number 4 came up today. And then here I am doing the 4th ray. I thought, no coincidence, no coincidence. I just love that. So this ray is tricky. This ray is really tricky. So these rays are, I guess the best word would be archetypal. That we carry these within us. This is just part of us. In this one way of thinking. So the 4th ray, I always think of it as the ray of the tortured artist. I think that really, and I always think about my father when I think about this ray, because he was a composer, and but a very frustrated composer and very emotional person, very sensitive person who was always kind of on an emotional roller coaster, possibly bipolar, but and that's really, this is the ray from which, like, out of conflict comes great beauty. So it's a very interesting ray. So it's called the ray of harmony through conflict. Harmony through conflict. But I really identify it with the whole artistic process. So it's been called the ray of struggle. And all the rays, as I said before, have a higher aspect and a lower aspect, or you could say a positive aspect and a negative aspect, whichever way. So when it's governed by the lower self, it's of course conflict, right? And havoc, just like chaos in your life. And when it's governed by the higher self, then you have the harmony, right? The beautiful harmony that can appear. So it's a very interesting ray. It's connected with the solar plexus chakra and with the emotional body, but the color of it is emerald green. Okay, so it's not the same as the chakra colors, so some people get confused with that. It's has a lot to do with looking at what you haven't finished yet. And again, I think of my father, who, was on his deathbed thinking about all the things he hadn't done. Okay, so it has that quality of reflecting back on things that you haven't finished or completed. And so it can also act as a mirror if you use it that way. So obviously it's very connected with the arts. So if you think of some of the great artworks that have been created on the planet, right? A lot of them are expressions of the 4th ray. Of course, I think of Van Gogh, right? I mean, he's, I think, a very perfect example of that. But Mozart as well. Mozart was of the higher aspect of the ray. Leonardo da Vinci was also somewhat of the higher aspect of the ray. Strauss and Rubens, they were all expressions of that. Apparently, Mozart had his soul, his personality, his mind, and emotional body all on the fourth ray, which is interesting. I actually have my personality on the fourth ray. So but that's the personality is more of a surface thing. So yeah. The problem with the fourth ray is that you could really get very, very entangled in your emotions. Okay. Very difficult to separate oneself or to get enough distance or clarity around emotion. So you could, people who, and you could think about the artistic temperament, right? I mean, the art comes from these emotions, right? So it's so entangled. So they tend to have difficulty separating themselves from their emotions. And I'm not talking about emotional bypassing or whatever, because of course you have to feel your feelings, but it's just this tendency to get tangled up in them and spiral down. And so could be a lot of depression associated with this. So as opposed to the other rays, some of the other rays that are more mental, this one is more in the emotional body. So they really need to find balance. What else do I want to say about this? Yeah, a person on the fourth ray is really going to be on an emotional roller coaster a lot of their lives. So if they're coming into this lifetime on the fourth ray, their lesson or their challenge is to learn how to balance and to work with their emotions in a healthy way so that they can be expressed in a way that is healthy and productive. They're very connected to the earth. They're very earthy people. So that's why they love like things to do with beauty, and physical beauty, the arts, and all of that. It's very earthy. And however, they can be a bit manipulative. All right. And if you think about it, a lot of what is an artist really doing sometimes, in addition to expressing themselves, they're trying to achieve something from the audience of the art, right? So in a way, if that's misused, that could be manipulative, if that makes sense. But on the positive side, there is strong affection, sympathy, physical courage, generosity, and a very quick intellect and perception. But then the negative aspects would be self-centeredness, worrying, inaccuracy, lack of moral courage, strong passions, indolence, and extravagance. So what they need to cultivate is serenity, confidence, self-control, purity, unselfishness, accuracy, and mental and moral balance. So that's a bit about the fourth ray. And I mean, if the rays that you tend to resonate with, that indicates that you're operating, some aspect of you is operating on that ray. Okay. So some rays you'll hear about, you don't really feel any particular resonance with, so probably you're not coming in with much on that ray. But if you hear one, you're like, oh, yeah, that's expressing that. So I hope that was interesting for you and gives you some food for thought. I think it's a fascinating subject. And if you want to know more about me, I will put my link tree in the chat. That's it.
Thank you. So let's close this session with a power word from everybody and a gratitude. I just want to say that just going back to how I started about manifesting, there was two things that I didn't mention, which was chakra blockages can be an obstacle to manifesting. So do chakra clearing often. And the other one was you might have a counter intention when trying to manifest. So you often say that you want this thing, but in your energy there is something running that is a counter intention to what you are believing in or saying. So examine, do some self-reflection if you're not manifesting what you want in your life. So let's close this session with a power word and gratitude. And my power word is peace. And my gratitude is for music. Syra, your power word and a gratitude. Unmute, please.
When you said peace, that's straight away came in my head exactly the same time as you said it. So
We're aligned.
Yeah, my word is peace and sunshine. Although I didn't see much of it today.
What are you grateful for?
I was saying sunshine, but I didn't see much of it today because it's too busy.
Thank you, Syra. Good to see you. Paul?
I have tea because I want to be greedy. It's cunning and mystery. And what am I grateful for? I'm really grateful for whatever this process of transformation that's occurring that I'm going through at the minute. It's interesting and I like it. And thank you.
Thank you. Krish?
I think my power word is ease, and my gratitude is to the big bear hug of energy that's held in this space by you, Alexis.
Bless you. Thank you so much. Anna?
My power word is sovereignty. And sovereignty. And I'm grateful for, well, I'm always grateful for this group and for you, but I'm also grateful today to myself for being able to do something I needed to do for my sovereignty.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Francesca?
My power word today is truth and gratitude. There's so many. Life being here.
It's beautiful. I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you. Denise?
My power word is strength, and my gratitude is for the connection with everybody that we've had here today.
Thank you so much. You are joined to the Sacred Segments Facebook group, right?
Yeah.
Please do send me a message with your contact. What's your surname, please?
On here, I'm in between surnames, but on Facebook it's Richardson.
Okay, so I can find you on there. Yeah.
And she's incredible at what she does as well. She's absolutely amazing at what she does.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for finding us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carl?
Thank you. My power word is presence. And I'm grateful for, I think, like Francesca, just the flow of life, the sense of energy and life that invades everything around us.
Thank you so much. Okay, so in 2 weeks, there's not going to be, I'm going to mute you, Carl, because there's something going on with your sound. In 2 weeks, there won't be a Sacred Segments on the Wednesday, but on the Thursday, it's going to happen as a one-off on Thursday the 31st, where a very powerful healer called Christiane Schull, that's also an author of a book called The Prosperity Circle, will be on Sacred Segments. So please join us if you can on Thursday the 31st of August, not Wednesday. I will post about it. I really appreciate your presence here tonight, and thank you for everything that you've contributed with your energy and your being. Much love to you all. Have a beautiful rest of the evening. Thank you. Always great to see
Thank
you.
you, Alex. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Much love. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.